Handling critics during the holidays can be one of the hardest parts of unschooling, especially when you're still in a deschooling phase and trying to build confidence in your choices. At home, you're finally starting to see real progress. Calmer days, more curiosity, deeper connection, and a child who's slowly recovering from the pressure of traditional schooling. But when you walk into a holiday gathering, those wins often get dismissed or ignored. And family members may question your parenting, your child's learning, or the idea of unschooling altogether. So, this episode, I want to explore why criticism feels so intense, especially when you're still deschooling, how family comments can trigger old fears, and why early unschooling makes you especially sensitive to judgment. We'll talk about why that's really happening beneath those uncomfortable conversations, why your relatives may misunderstand what they're seeing, and how you can stay grounded and confident and connected, even when people don't support your choices. If you're bracing for tough conversations at Thanksgiving or Christmas or any holiday get-together, this episode will give you some clarity and some tools to navigate it with far less stress. Before we get any further, I'm Sue Patterson, and this is the Unschooling Mom to Mom podcast. I'm bringing weekly pep talks to parents who have stepped away from schools and the school approach to homeschooling. So take a second and subscribe to the podcast. It helps us spread the word to families. So they can see that they do have options when it comes to educational choices for their kids. So this week, we're talking about something that comes up every single holiday season. Honestly, it's all year long. What do you do when you finally feel steady at home, or steady-ish, and then you step into a gathering full of people who don't understand unschooling? So if you've been dreading those questions, those eyebrows, those comments, let's breathe together. You're not alone. There's nothing wrong with you. Let's talk about what's underneath all of that. So inside your home, there's real but quiet progress. When we're at home with our kids, we're living in this quiet little ecosystem where real changes are happening. Not big, flashy, trophy-worthy things, but subtle shifts that matter deeply. Maybe your child is finally relaxing after years of pressure. Maybe they're smiling more, sleeping better, asking questions again. Maybe they're starting to feel safe enough to be themselves. And maybe you are softening and reconnecting and feeling more at ease. There's no award for finally exhaled today, or talked openly in the car, or had a tiny spark of curiosity. But you see it, and you're starting to understand how real learning actually works. Unschooling parents learn to recognize these quiet wins, the healing, the trust building, the moments when your child feels good in their own skin. This is the real progress. This is what matters. Then you leave the house. So, of course, it feels jarring, even heartbreaking sometimes when you walk into a holiday gathering and suddenly you're surrounded by people still using the old measuring stick. You're noticing connection. They're looking for test scores. You're watching confidence grow. They're looking for competitive achievements. You're focused on emotional safety. They're focused on performance. You're celebrating healing and curiosity. They're scanning for something impressive to report back to the family group chat. And it hurts, not because you're wrong, but because you've changed how you see progress and they haven't. You're living by a new framework. They're measuring by the old one. So of course it creates tension. And of course it feels vulnerable. So let's think about the real reason why their comments hit so hard. Because this is the piece that most parents don't realize, that critics feel louder when we're still deschooling. It's not about the old version of you getting activated. It's that you're still becoming steady in this new way of seeing learning. So when someone questions you or doubts you or makes a passive-aggressive comment, their words land right on the parts of you that are still a little tender. Not because they're right, but because you're still unlearning old beliefs yourself. You're still learning to trust what you see happening in your home. Those reactions you feel, that wobble, that tiny panic, they're not signs you made the wrong choice. They're signs you're still building your foundation. And once that foundation is solid, truly solid, those exact same comments won't shake you at all. The critics don't change, but you do. And when you're grounded and clear, their opinions lose their power. So why do critics want everything to stay the same? When we leave our homes where we're intentionally learning to look at life differently, and we walk straight into conversations with people who want everything to stay the same. They're not trying to understand your changes. They're trying to pull you back into the version of parenting that makes sense to them, back to what feels predictable, back to systems they trust. And that pull can feel strong, but it doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you're growing, and they haven't caught up yet. So here's another piece that a lot of parents don't realize, that unschooling success is really all about preparation, not rigid planning or controlling the outcomes, but preparing yourself emotionally and practically for the humans you're about to encounter. Because by the time the holiday gathering rolls around, you actually know more than you think you do. You've been observing your child, paying attention to what dysregulates them, what calms them, what overwhelms them, what lights them up. You know their preferences, you know their breaking points. You even know that look they get right before frustration hits. So this is the result of the real work that you've been doing, watching and noticing and understanding. You're not trying to jam square pegs into round holes anymore. So when you're heading into this gathering, it becomes less about hoping for the best and more about anticipating the possibilities, not predicting disaster, but reading the landscape. Who will likely ask questions? Which rooms or activities might overwhelm your kid? Where can they retreat if things get too loud? Do they need a plan or a buffer or a signal to leave? Do you need a phrase ready so you're not caught off guard? This isn't anxiety, it's skill. You're not leaning into your anxiety, it's a skill. It's what partnered parenting actually looks like, and you're developing it. So you can support yourself in that preparation in a few key ways. Number one, have a couple of go-to phrases ready. This isn't about defending unschooling. It's about staying out of the hot seat. When you're prepared with a calm, confident sentence or two, you don't get pulled back into explaining or defending or debating. You simply redirect the conversation and keep your energy protected. I do have a guide that can help prepare you for these situations, not with scripts to memorize, but with options that you can adapt to fit your tone. Think of it as your emotional carry-on bag, everything you need for the bumps in the road. It's in this week's Thanksgiving Parent Bundle. It's also in the Holiday Bundle, and it's over in the membership group. I'll link to these in the show notes. So number two, have a plan for the kids because you know them best. If you watch closely, you can see the signs before things go sideways. Maybe you need a full tummy before you arrive, or their headphones, or something to fidget with, or a plan for where to go if you need a reset. A heads up about who will be there, reassurance that you are available if they need you, permission to stay close, permission to take breaks. This is where your unschooling skills are going to shine. You understand your child in ways nobody else in that room does, and you can show up for them intentionally. Number three, decide what your boundaries are ahead of time. Not the dramatic kind, just the quiet, steady ones. What questions will you answer? Which ones will you gently redirect? Which ones aren't up for discussion at all? How long do you realistically want to stay? What's your exit plan if somebody pushes too hard? Because boundaries feel so much safer when they're thought through in advance. So number four, create emotional armor that comes from truth, not defensiveness. When you walk in knowing, I know my child, I see progress they don't see. I'm learning and growing too. This is a long game and we're on track. Then you move through the room differently, calmer, steadier, harder to rattle. And this steadiness is exactly what the guides I've made reinforce. It helps you understand a little more about why people criticize, how to respond without taking the bait, and how to stay in your lane without losing your cool. You don't need them to approve of what you're doing. It's okay to disagree. You're a grown-up too. And then number five, finally, give yourself grace. If you're feeling shaky, if every comment feels like a spotlight, Remember, this isn't a sign that unschooling isn't working or you're not cut out for this. It's a sign that you're still in the middle of changing the way you see everything. That doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't even happen in a couple of months. It takes a while. You're not failing or behind if you feel wobbly. You're not supposed to be immune to criticism yet. You're still deschooling. You're still building that inner foundation. Your preparation isn't just practical or logistical, it's emotional. And every bit of this work counts. So I mentioned a new guide that I made, Coping with Critics and Getting Through the Get-togethers. It can help you get yourself and your kids ready for these gatherings with family or friends. You don't need perfect responses. You just need a tool to help you walk into these situations fully prepared for whatever you're going to be facing. I get it. You're not on steady ground yet with this unschooling thing. That's okay. But this can help you feel supported as you move through the world with your friends and your family who don't really get what you're trying to do. So you'll find that in a couple of different bundles, Thanksgiving or holiday, depending on when you're listening to this and which season you're walking into. Take what you need, support your future self. You've got this. I'm right here with you.